This is Kendall Hinton. He's currently a rookie in this year's NFL season, but the thing is, he was on the practice squad as a receiver for most of this season, but this past weekend he would actually play in his first ever NFL game, but not as a receiver, as a quarterback. Kendall would be notified less than 24 hours before his first ever start versus the New Orleans Saints, who are one of the best teams in the NFL, and this was mainly because all of the Denver Broncos quarterbacks had to be quarantined due to one of the quarterbacks testing positive for the current virus. Not going to say it, not trying to get demonetized. The thing about Kendall going into his first ever NFL game of his career was that he's not a quarterback. He used to be a quarterback, but he transitioned into receiver his final year of college, and he was practicing as receiver his whole time with the Denver Broncos. And not only that, the last time he ever took a snap and actually threw the ball in a game was in his redshirt junior year at Wake Forest. And even in college, he was only a backup quarterback. Everything that could have gone wrong for Kendall, it went wrong. He played horrible. He went 1 for 9 from passing and only threw for 13 yards and threw 2 interceptions and ended up losing the game 31-3 to the New Orleans Saints. But the thing is, it was expected. No one expected him to throw for 500 yards, 5 touchdowns, and to be basically the next Patrick Mahomes. The thing is, Kendall Hinton was set up for failure. He is a receiver. He transitioned into receiver, and he's basically in his second year of transitioning into a receiver. The last time he threw a pass in a game was in his redshirt junior season at Wake Forest, and he didn't even do that a lot. He was a backup quarterback. And not only that, he has not played consistently at the quarterback spot as a starter since his high school football career. At Wake Forest, he was primarily a backup quarterback. And although the performance was miserable, you cannot be mad at Kendall. He had no time to prepare. Everything was against him. He had all the odds against him. His success percentage was going to be low. No one was expecting him to do anything special. And if he did, it would have been the story of the day. No one is mad at Kendall Hinton, and no one's really hating on him. All you can do is respect him for stepping up to the plate and taking the task that he was dealt with. But with all that said, who is Kendall Hinton? To start off this story, we have to go all the way back to Durham, North Carolina at Southern High School. At Southern High School, Kendall Hinton was a 2-year varsity starting quarterback, and he absolutely ate up the competition. The dude played amazing. In his junior season, he helped lead Southern High School to a 15-2 record and even won a state title that year. His stats in his junior season were 3,972 passing yards with 39 passing touchdowns and only 5 interceptions. He also had 1,183 yards of rushing, averaging nearly 12.5 yards per carry and 13 touchdowns on the ground. In his senior season, he would end up going 13-1, and he would yet again have another amazing season, except his production did dip slightly, but he still balled out at the end. He threw for 2,818 yards, 25 touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions. And on the ground, he had 933 rushing yards, averaging nearly 10 yards per carry, and 4 rushing touchdowns. In his 2 seasons as a varsity starter at the quarterback spot, he would put up a very impressive stat line with 6,790 yards of passing, 64 passing touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and completing 63% of his passes in his career, while rushing for 2,116 yards, averaging 11 yards per carry, and 27 total rushing touchdowns on the ground in his career is very impressive in only 2 seasons, and you add the state title to that, it's even more impressive. Coming out of high school in the 2015 recruiting class, Kendall Hinton was not very highly recruited. He was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school. According to the 247 Sports Composite, he was ranked as the 821st best player in the nation, the 31st best pro-style quarterback, and the 29th best player in the state of North Carolina. He only had 7 Division I offers from Wake Forest, Appalachian State, Boston College, Duke, East Carolina, NC State, and Towson. Kendall Hinton was heavily predicted to go to NC State, but he would actually commit to Wake Forest. In the 2015 college football season at Wake Forest, as a true freshman, Kendall Hinton would be a backup quarterback primarily. He would appear in 9 games and only start in 2 of them. His stats for that season were 52% passes were completed, while he threw for 929 passing yards, had 4 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, also having 390 rushing yards and 7 rushing touchdowns to his name. It was not the best season, but as a backup quarterback and his first true year of college football on the Power 5 level, it's not the worst. In the 2016 college football season, Kendall Hinton would only appear in the first 3 games of the season until he got injured in a game versus Delaware where he only sprained his ankle and he was only expected to be out for 2 to 4 weeks, but it was a lot more severe. He would actually end up missing the whole season, which he got a medical redshirt out of. But in his true sophomore season, he completed 57% of his passes, throwing for 174 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception, while rushing for 125 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground. In Kendall Hinton's redshirt sophomore season in the 2017 college football season, he was a backup quarterback yet again. He would appear in 5 games in the 2017 college football season, where he completed 57% of his passes, threw for 399 yards, had 4 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 190 rushing yards, and only 1 rushing touchdown. Going into the 2018 college football season, Kendall Hinton's redshirt junior season, he was actually projected to be the starting quarterback, but he would be suspended the first 3 games of the season due to violating team rules, and once he returned from his suspension, he was the backup quarterback for the rest of the season behind true freshman quarterback Sam Hartman. He would unfortunately not play that much this season, and any time that Hinton did play this season, it was in very minimal garbage time minutes, and he just didn't play that much. He would appear in 5 games, but he really didn't get that much playing time. He would only end up completing 25% of his passes this season, only threw 8 passes though, so he only completed 2 of them. He had 2 passing yards total, 0 passing touchdowns, and 1 interception. On the ground, he did have 167 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Going into the 2019 college football season, Kendall Hinton actually put his name in the transfer portal. But before the 2019 college football season would start, he would pull his name out of it and return to Wake Forest for his redshirt senior season. In his redshirt senior season, Kendall Hinton would actually transition from quarterback to receiver full-time as a slot receiver. Despite it being his first true season at the receiver position, he played pretty well. He had 1,001 receiving yards and 4 receiving touchdowns, and he averaged 13.7 yards per reception that he had. In the 2020 NFL Draft, Kendall Hinton would not hear his name called, and shortly after the draft, he would be picked up as an undrafted free agent by the Denver Broncos. However, he would end up getting waived on September 5th, 2020. He would end up getting re-signed, however, by the Denver Broncos yet again to the practice squad on November 4th, 2020. And it's a good thing that he ended up getting signed to the practice squad to the Denver Broncos, because if they did not have him on the roster this past weekend, I don't know how they were going to play. I guess they would have had to play Royce Freeman there. There was rumors about that. But he had the experience back in college, playing a little college football as a quarterback for about 4 seasons. He had the experience, and they needed him, and he got put in when he was needed most. Kendall Hinton might never play quarterback again in his NFL career at all. But one thing he did achieve is that he achieved his dream of playing in the NFL. And he used to be a quarterback. He must have had dreams in the beginning to play quarterback in the NFL, and even though it was a big surprise and a shocker to him, he did achieve his dream of playing in the NFL, and possibly another dream of reaching the NFL as a quarterback. Now, I do not know what his future holds as a receiver, but I do know he will probably never play quarterback again, and that's not even disrespect at him. Seems like he does a lot better at receiver, and seems like he has a lot more potential at receiver. I don't know what his future holds for him. I don't know if he's going to be the next great receiver for the Broncos or if he'll only be on the practice squad for the rest of his career. But the way I see it, he did something that many people cannot do. Play quarterback in an NFL game. Well guys, if you guys liked the video, remember to smash that like button, turn on them post notifications, and subscribe for more videos. B. Kelly out.